Or it could have rained fish. Was it raining fish
It
or
rains
frogs?
frogs. Why the fuck would it rain a fish?
Frogs.
What deadly playing was on the seventh day? The fish rain.
I think that was in the Book of Mormon.
No, this
is how Big D proves that he's the least religious of the podcast. It rained fish or something. That's why Jesus fished.
Maybe that was the seventh sign. Maybe that was a different movie.
Remember when we first met John McClane? Argyle picked him up from the plane and took him down the Nakatomi Tower at the Christmas party. And the terrorists were overzealous, but it was sweet when they killed Ellis. And with a little help from Alan, John McClane kicked ass.
Welcome back to Chat the Movies, the podcast where we answer the question, were the movies we loved when we were growing up really that good? Have you ever caught yourself thinking, why don't they make movies like they used to? Can you still remember spending your Friday night searching for the perfect movie rental at Blockbuster Video? Do you know what Blockbuster Video is? If you answered yes, then this is the podcast for you. I am one of your hosts, Gene Lyons, and alongside me are my co-hosts, Ash, Lord Byron Greenberg.
Hi, y'all.
And Big D, Dick Ebert.
Good evening.
And each week, we take a look back in time and decide if our favorite films still hold up. The movies we cover are chosen by you, the listeners, who generously commission the films you love. If you like to see all the movies we have covered, will cover, want to choose one for yourself, please visit chatpod.com and have a look. At the end of each podcast, we will provide you, the audience, with the number of wipes each movie takes to get off your respective butts. So thank you so much for listening. If you have not already, hit that subscribe button and share with a friend. It's how we help the podcast grow. Additionally, subscribe to our sister podcast, Chat on TV. Review TV series such as Westworld, Taboo, American Gods, Game of Thrones, True Detective, Lovecraft Country, and Watchmen. Find all our information and past episodes at shatpod.com/TV. And finally, to hang out with us live, follow and subscribe to our Twitch channel, shatpod.com/Twitch, and our YouTube channel where we play video games, host watch parties, edit this podcast live, and if you watch long enough, you'll see me get my first kill in Hell Let Loose. All that being said, Big D, what movie are we reviewing today?
Gene, tonight's film is the second commission in a row from one of our great listeners, Grant Leisure. And he's taking us out and he's taking us back to the track. I think we've done a few movies before with gambling. We had, White Men Can't Jump.
Rounders.
We had also, what was the Grifters? Where they're at the track. Also,
Yeah.
It's a little another horse racing.
And the pool one.
Color of Money.
Color of Money. Correct. And Richard Dreyfuss, I believe we've only done Jaws. But so we do have a little history with the topic, so I was very excited. This one's a little lighter than last week's. So hopefully tonight will be a little more fun, a little more lively. And this week, that's why I'm excited for us to go back to a very unique time in American history and sports. It is the 1989 comedy Let It Ride. And Grant was kind enough to send us a voicemail so we can hear in his own voice why he decided to commission this film.
I got the horse right here. The name is Paul Revere. Hey, Shetty McShettersons, it's Butch from Indy. I love that song from Guys and Dolls. That film's opening sequence is superb. That song's also featured in 1989's Let It Ride. And this movie's not as heavy as Do the Right Thing, but I do think that it is a fun little film. It's one of these movies that I watched over at my dad's house. I miss my dad. It's not the greatest movie. I have rewatched it within the past year or so, and I still enjoyed it. I really thought the cast was great. You've got Richard Dreyfuss, Terry Garr. You've got the one lady from the Mamas and Papas That Didn't Die. You got the original drummer from Sonic Youth, a.k.a. Vito from Do the Right Thing. You got the frontman from New York Dolls, a.k.a. Buster Poindexter, a.k.a. Ghost of Christmas Past. You got Chucky's wife. You got the redhead from Sex and the City, and you got Hagrid in there too. So, like I said, not the greatest film, but enjoyable. And I'm curious to hear what you guys' thoughts are on it, and I hope you enjoy it. Can do.
Well, Grant, thank you so much for the commission. You mentioned both for this and Do the Right Thing that these were movies that you watched with your dad that reminded you of your dad. I didn't grow up with a dad, but I have an older cousin who basically kind of was a father figure growing up. And I got to tell you, Do the Right Thing he would dismiss as like woke garbage. But Let It Ride is definitely like the daddest of dad movies. I could totally see watching this with my cousin or any of my uncles, and they would have thought it was absolutely fantastic.
I think we're going to have a hard time following up on Grant's voicemail there. He covered everything. He covered the cast. He covered where they've appeared. He's very thorough.
Guys and Dolls.
Amazing.
We've got a musical interlude.
I feel like with baseball season starting, he could be the bullpen. Like, you know, what we need, like a little tidbit. We like stick up our arm. We got to touch it. And then we go straight to Grant. And then Grant comes in with a couple fireballs. He starts throwing some heat. And then we go back to the regular program.
Let It Ride is a 1989 comedy directed by Joe Pytka in his feature non-documentary debut, based on the 1979 novel Good Vibes. It stars Richard Dreyfuss, Buster Poindexter, Terry Garr, Alan Garfield, and all the other people that and all the other people that Butch mentioned. The story is centered on a normally unsuccessful habitual gambler, played by Richard Dreyfuss, who experiences a day in which he wins every bet he places. So I talked about the dad appeal of this movie, but I want to know about the Shat appeal of it. So we always ask where you were when you saw a movie or what your memories are of its release. And Big D, we'll start with you.
So unlike Grant said, my dad was not a sports guy. He did not care about any sports whatsoever. I take that back. He liked boxing. He liked boxing when Tyson was coming out because Tyson was a Catskill guy. But other than that, my father could care less about sports. And as a result, I think I didn't grow up being much of a gambler. I will occasionally bet on like major sporting events, but just for like the fun of it. I don't really do cards. I don't bet online. In casinos, I don't bet. I always think about the loss and not the win. And as a teenager, I used to go with friends. We had Yonkers Raceway, which was this pathetic old rundown track where they had races probably, I think, 5 or 6 days a week. And I would go with friends. They'd bet the horses. I went more just to watch the group of degenerative New York gamblers who were there drinking and smoking on a weekday. So there was no reason for me back in 89 to go out and see this film. I would just go to the track and watch them for real.
I'm like you, Big D, not a gambler at all, but I really do love the casino vibe. Like I like to get dressed up. I like to go sit at the slots or sit at the craps table, do a little blackjack. I generally don't know what the fuck is going on, but one of the things I did learn, which I think I mentioned on the pod before, is at least with blackjack, they're like legally obligated to guide you through the game, which is fantastic. You just tell the dealer, what should I do here? And they have to tell you the right move. And then you just look cool. You win some, you lose some. I really like it. After the bachelor party in New Orleans, Ash will appreciate this story. The King Bee and I had a couple hours to kill, but he was tired of walking around and it was hot outside. So we went to one of the gambling boats that doesn't actually go anywhere. And I had a fucking blast. He didn't like it at all, but it was complimentary beers. It was air conditioned. They were the nicest old ladies there. You could smoke inside. I had an absolutely wonderful time. But yeah, other than that, I mean, I do the occasional sports betting on the apps for $1 here or $2 there. And that's normally when I'm at somebody's house or at a bar and a game is on and I could care less. So it gives me something to root for. Horse racing, I never got into. And I think that it kind of was on its way out. The 80s might have been the last gasp for like horse racing comedies, right? There was A Fine Mess. Where
horse racing comedies?
Yeah.
What, was there a whole genre we've been missing?
There was A Fine Mess. There was Hot to Trot. Remember that one with the talking horse?
Oh my God.
A Fine Mess was the one where like they put the horse like suppository up the dude's ass. I didn't really pay attention to any of them because the posters and the VHS covers look dumb as hell. And I'm really disappointed, Big D, that you don't remember this entire genre of film. How dare you have a movies podcast?
I do remember one horse prank was Police Academy when there was that quick stop when they were out on patrol and what's his name went his head up the ass.
Sir, do not defile the fine genre of horse racing comedy by bringing in any horse movie. We're not talking about Secretariat here. Come on. Horse racing comedies, not comedies that happen to have a horse in them. Otherwise, you could bring in, fucking Animal House. You can bring in all kinds of movies. There are lots of movies with horses in them, Big D.
Bachelor Party, yeah.
Bachelor Party, there you go. But anyway.
Well, you were just saying that this was the apex of like horse humor. I thought that's what
No, I said horse racing comedies.
Oh, okay, sorry.
And we recorded it. hope I'm right, actually. I don't really know.
You probably are. You definitely are.
Anyway, I'm mature enough to admit that when I'm wrong, and I wrongly dismiss these movies because after watching Let It Ride for the podcast, I realized I missed out on some 80s gold, and and I appreciate the commission.
So I have never heard of this one. Not really a big fan of any sort of horse racing film at all. I've never been to a horse race. I've never been to the fairgrounds other than for Jazz Fest, which there's no horse racing during that time. It's just food and music. But I am a big Richard Dreyfuss fan, like huge fan of his. I think he's really funny. I think he's a great actor, and I'm a huge fan of Mr. Holland's Opus. So I love him, and I was really looking forward to this one.
So, Ash, I do need to ask. You said there that because I know people are going to wonder, like I was, you hadn't gone to any horse racing. I peg you as maybe an equestrian fan. When the Olympics come around, do you like the equestrian event?
I'm terrified of horses, so I don't like anything to do with them. Like, I have an extreme phobia of horses, so no, I don't watch any equestrian events at all. I think they're majestic creatures that need to stay far, far away from humans.
Slap an alicorn on their forehead, though, and she's all in.
I'm all in at that point. Actually, no, I'd be terrified. I am not a fan of them at all. When I was a small child, I've shared on the pod before. I was a small child. I saw somebody get kicked in the face. And then I've had many a run-in with the back of the wrong horse at Mardi Gras. So not in.
Yeah, that'll do it.
Not into them. Nope. I think jockeys are funny, though.
Oh,
funny?
Yeah, I think they're funny.
Wow.
That is so
I think they're funny. Like their little outfits that they wear with their little like checkered hats. I think they're hilarious.
Like leprechauns.
Well, you said it.
Let's hit the trailer.
Excuse me, I'm taking a survey. What do you like?
Horse number 2.
The 4. The 1 horse.
I always bet on 5.
Up yours. Thank you.
Richard Dreyfuss is Jay Trotter, a man with nothing to lose.
You finished with that? Knock yourself out, pal.
But an uninterrupted losing streak.
I don't deserve this anguish.
There's a horse in the 3rd race.
The man just said that the only way this horse can lose is if lightning strikes. What do you like? You like the odds on lightning?
I mean, really, I don't see why you people can't just watch the horses run around the track and not bet on them.
Just let me win this one.
Honey, some people like to rub me for luck.
I'm due.
But what's happening to him today?
My God, Trotter, you won!
Is one
I can't believe it!
For the books.
Congratulations. You might be walking around lucky and not even know it.
$2,450.
I'm rich.
Give me the money.
Because when Jay Trotter wins,
What do you like in the 3rd, huh?
he takes the world
7 horse.
along for the ride.
I'm having a good day.
$69,000.
So where's all this money?
Let it ride. I put every penny on the number 2 horse, Hampton Trot.
I have a house in the Bahamas and I love a man with guts.
No! The horse is probably gonna swallow its tongue or something. He's coming through! You're the greatest I've ever seen. I'll tell my grandchildren about you.
Richard Dreyfuss.
God likes me! He really, really likes me!
David Johansen.
I can't see, I'm going blind!
Terry Garr.
It's only money.
Jennifer Tilly.
This is what life is all about. Spontaneity, if you know what I mean.
Jockey's high on the horse. He's probably trying to get off! One more word, I'll kill you. They're glued together! I could lose! Come on! I thought we had a deal!
Let it ride.
You're a wonderful guy. What a guy.
When a cab driver named Looney secretly records 2 men talking about a fixed horse race, he and his best friend Trotter decide to place $50 bets. Trotter, having just told his wife Pam he would quit betting, prays in a bathroom stall at Marty's bar and is answered by a voice from another stall to let it ride. Looney refuses to bet the tip and misses out when Trotter's horse wins the race in a photo finish, gaining Trotter $710.
It's been a while since we've seen an opening that I really liked as much as I liked this one. I thought it was very, very charming. And if you've not seen it before, like the way they kind of set it up is you've got Richard Dreyfuss and the person who's playing his wife, and they're sitting there and they're in a restaurant, and clearly it's like either their anniversary or like a reconciliation between them. And they like make these like very sweet promises, like reading off these letters to one another, and then immediately begin breaking those promises. You know, that she claims she's not going to get angry in public anymore. So of course she immediately gets angry in public, and he claims he's not going to bet anymore. And then of course he immediately goes and bets. And I was laughing from like pretty much the get-go before the titles even started kind of rolling. And I think the best part about the way they've structured this is like you automatically understand who these characters are. Like you get their relationship, you get their dynamic, you get their personalities, even just the way they're dressed. And I just couldn't help but go, okay, like take note, like other 80s and 90s films, like this is how it's done, instead of like some grungy or like, you know, cheesy stuff over, you know, some really awkward like title cards, like open like this.
Yeah, see, I should have known you would like this. And I got a very much
you
like
horse person.
Yes,
you equestrian lover.
You horse hating, jockey mocking. No, you know how like we were talking about Clerks. I don't like it when dialogue feels a bit forced and rehearsed and not spontaneous. People don't talk like this. The opening fortune cookie dialogue, where everyone starts taking sides, everyone's involved. I'm not optimistic. The movie's off to this like debate of like a restaurant wide. This wouldn't really happen. People don't have conversations like this.
This is why Big D is the president of the Frankie Capra League of America. This is like such a classic form of comedy. And yes, it's a bit over the top, but this shit really happens. Like I've turned a room into a debate stage once or twice. House parties, definitely, usually at bars, but this is 89, like everywhere is a bar. And you mentioned, and Ash, you mentioned take note other 80s films. This is how it does. Take note Chinese restaurants. This is what a Chinese restaurant is supposed to look like. I'm so sick of like the whitewashed, no pun intended, like sterile, chrome faceted, new fusion, minimalist design in Chinese restaurants. They should be dark. They should be somewhat smoky. They should have like the mysteries of the Orient on display. Like this makes me want to eat Chinese food.
Yeah, it looks loungy.
Yeah, lounge.
Like it looks like a little lounge. And I don't know. I think that this definitely happens. I mean, you say it turns into a debate stage. Like, I mean, yeah, sure. It's a little ridiculous, but I think, you know, like Gene's saying, I mean, it is a comedy. And if we go with, you know, realism in the opening of any comedy scene, like that automatically cuts out every Sandler film, every like, I mean, you like dirty work. I mean, imagine if I had been on that podcast, I was like, okay, this is not realistic. This is not the way the real world works. People don't lose jobs like this. Like, it would be ridiculous.
You know, I know what Big D's saying. Big D doesn't want Oxfords and a tie comedy. He wants sandals on the beach comedy.
Got it.
That's okay, Florida man. That's okay.
Well, you guys kind of mentioned in the introduction about how you feel about gambling, and this entire film obviously is about it, so we have to talk about it. And I'll be honest, like I've never really understood the allure of gambling. I am immensely risk averse in situations like this. Like I don't understand how people step up and are like, okay, I'll just lay this money out here. Because to me, that would be like me like kind of setting it on fire, which would be ridiculous. I don't enjoy the rush of like wondering if it's going to happen for me, like if I'm going to have a good day today. I do play poker for sure, but I play very low stakes poker, and at least there's like some statistics at play there. Like it's not just luck. But the ones that you can't control at all, like slot machines, like craps, like roulette, like no, thank you. And tomorrow we get on a plane and we leave for Napa. Tom and mine's 10-year wedding anniversary is Friday. And so we're going to Napa Valley for a couple of days, and we have a stop in Vegas, and I will be playing nothing at the airport. Tom was all excited because he's like, oh, we could play at like the airport casino, because he's never been to Vegas before. And I was like, I'll sit at the gate and read. Like that sounds a lot better, because I just don't see the point of it. But I will say this. I do understand how people get addicted to it, because like you said, Gene, like I really do enjoy the casino environment. While I don't like to play, I love the noises of a casino, like the little like when the things like climb, or like the sound of the fake money coming out of the slot machines when people are screaming. I love immediate gratification, which is why I can't play, because maybe I would get addicted very easily. But while I wouldn't do it, I do understand why this guy, why he comes in and why he lays his money down, and how other people do get into it. I think that it's like that first play that I don't understand. Like, why do you play the first bet? But if I played the first bet, I get why, like, I wouldn't be able to stop.
You see, but Ash, I think that's the thing. You and I, we don't get the high. I think for a lot of gamblers, it's not about the money. It's not about, oh, I'm going to hit this amount so I can live or I can pay this off. Everything is the action. I think you and I don't get it, because we're more logical in that. But it gets people just to actually, it's like a drug. They're willing to sell their soul. They're willing to do anything. And I'm the most probably non-religious member of the podcast here. You both, to differing degrees, were raised religious or have religion in your life. As an atheist, when I see these people who are down on their luck, they're craving the action, they're out there and they're making the bet, God, just give this to me one more time. Please, God, let me have it. As somebody who's not religious, I'm like, hey, doesn't this kind of diminish your belief in a God that's up there and like, oh, there's a flood in Bangladesh, but hold on a second. Ash is really hoping that the Astros will win it this year. Doesn't that, as somebody religious, bother you?
Well, as a person who was raised religiously, though, I'm raised to believe that God is omnipotent and therefore he can do all those things. And honestly, if I said I had a problem with it, I'd be a hypocrite, because being an atheist, a staunch atheist, I will freely admit that I prayed for Phoenix Rising to win during the penalty kicks in last season's championship game. I prayed for Jeff Hostetler and the Giants to beat the Buffalo Bills way back in the 90s. And I prayed for the Diamondbacks in the 2001 World Series. And, like 3 for 3. Not bad, God. Not bad.
See, now I know what happened in 2001. I was actively praying on the opposite side.
Uh-huh.
When you wanted that
and your
bullshit,
faith was weak.
That bullshit single up the middle. My faith was weak. I guess I had faith in my God, Mariano Rivera, and you prayed to a different God. And
yeah,
you got
Luis Gonzalez.
That single up the middle. That was trash.
Well, my God turned out to be an asshole. He's a real piece of shit. So,
well, he punished me. You talked in the intro here about this was like maybe like the last gasp of horse racing. And this is a different time. This is a time capsule, 89. The track they filmed this out, it's Hialeah Park. It's the grandstands in Florida. They're packed with people. This is an average day. And I always think, Gene, what you said, when you go on a plane, you like to dress up because you don't know who you might meet. This track is teeming with people who are down on their luck, some people who are wealthy, but everyone's dressed up. And it was such a different time. You think back to early in the century when you had horse racing, boxing, and Major League Baseball were the three major popular sports in America. Then boxing gets taken out by MMA. Major League Baseball is passed by the NFL. Horse racing has declined in popularity. A lot of it, I think, is because people don't agree now with the treatment of the animals. Florida, we used to have a lot of greyhound tracks. But in 89, when this was filmed, there was 74,000 horse racing tracks in the U.S., in 2022, it was less than half of that, 33,000. And this decline is dramatic. And I think horse racing, besides the animal aspect, it's now online gambling. Everything now has changed with tech. Where do you guys think? Because in 100 years ago, if you've gone back in time, say 1920s, into the city and said, hey, guess what? People aren't going to care about boxing, horse racing, or baseball. 100 years from now, where do we think we are with the landscape of sports?
I think no doubt it's esports. Like, the kids are growing up watching streaming games. There are kids who know the names of all the top players, on the different games that are out there they're competing in, and more so than the names of professional athletes in conventional sports. But I think that's the obvious answer, right? But I want to make a long shot bet here, since we are talking about betting. I think betting on combat, like real world combat, is going to be a thing in the next decade. And I think what we were always raised to think is like there's going to be things like Running Man, Arnold Schwarzenegger and Running Man, or like there's going to be like these shows where, people are like killing each other, or it's going to be something like in Blood of Heroes with Jugger. But what we're seeing now, like in real time, is like the Ukrainian drone footage that's being shared out. And these teams of Ukrainian pilots are putting out competing videos to like who got the sickest kill on the Russians, you know? And I don't know if you guys have watched these, but you can see the drone like going through the forest and into the Russian bunker. And you can see the Russian soldiers' faces right before the bomb goes off. It's pretty fucking wild to watch. But they like tag it with music. So the one I just watched today was one that was they're playing Welcome to the Jungle. That's like the music. And then they've got like their team's like logo on it too. And they ask for like sponsorships. So you can actually go to a website and sponsor drones for them. And they're like, hey, we'd like 5 more of these if you don't mind going to this. And you can like give them money. And then they're vying to see who has the coolest videos, the sickest drops, you know. And some of them, I wish I was joking. It's like America's Funniest Home Videos where they put like the sound effects too. It'd be like, ba-da-bump. And then like you see the explosion go off. And then there's this usually a secondary drone that's doing a sky view of it. So you can see the guys writhing on the ground with like their limbs blown off and shit. It's absolutely fucking nuts. I think it's only a matter of time before people start betting on those.
Shit, I wonder if we're going to have some kind of augmented sports where you're going to have people with actual implants that make them more than human. I think you could.
I mean...
Like doping?
Like basketball?
No, well, I think it would be almost
solar babies?
Because what happens is you get people who get tired of normal sports. You're pushing the limits of what the human body can do. Maybe it's some kind of chip implant, some kind of muscular, some kind of advancement beyond sports, or just like an avatar type sport where it is a mix of the two. Esports, where you have a physical component like like a robot jocks, like something like that.
When you said Avatar, I went straight to James Cameron. I was like, well, that would take a lot. But I don't know. I think the esports for sure. I mean, my son is 8 and is obsessed with esports gaming. Like, and he and his little friends, he had a mega sleepover this past weekend. I agreed to. It was the worst day of my life where he had multiple friends come and sleep over. So all these 8-year-old boys were here. And that's all they wanted to do was they watch like footage from the past like year or stuff. And they were like breaking it down like we would, like when I was a kid and we watch football games and like watch the old ones with our dads and break it down. Like they're like, look at this sick kill, you know, and it's like Fortnite and it's Minecraft and it's all of these like Call of Duty and all of this shit. And like, they are like in it. And there's part of me that loves it for like nerds to be the ones that are like heralded, like the non-athletic kids. It gives them a shot to be like, you know, these huge, you know, big mega stars. And let me tell you something, parents out there, the scholarships for e-gaming are insane. Like they're getting like close to what like playing football scholarships are. Like, I don't know. At least you don't get a concussion from it.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, it's kind of like golf in the sense that like people watch, you know, NFL football, they're watching the NBA and they know that that takes effort and training to do that sport. And like you're going to be exhausted and you're not tall enough or whatever. But golf, why do people love watching golf? It's because they can go out there and golf themselves and, you know, you could be in any shape and do it. Well, shit, esports, it's the most democratic sport of all, right? You can buy the game and start playing right then. And some of the games are even free. So I totally see that happening. I don't have a feeling either way on like whether that's good or bad, but I do think it's the future. After cashing his winning bet, Trotter approaches the 2 men from Looney's cab ride and gives them the tape of their taxi conversation. Out of gratitude, they give Trotter a good tip for the next race. He places a large bet and wins again. Sensing that this could be his lucky day, Trotter intends to parlay all of his track winnings on every race. Before he can make another bet, he is arrested in a case of mistaken identity. And after he's released, Trotter realizes the horse he was going to bet on has lost. Now he really feels it's his lucky day.
So part of doing this podcast is we have to let our lives and our experiences affect us in the way that we view the movies. And I felt it really, really strongly in the beginning of this film. My experience that I had at Yonkers Raceway. You know, I joked that I used to like to go watch The Degenerates, but there was one particular night that affected me. Each summer in high school and then a couple in the beginning of college, I worked as a camp counselor for the Village of Mamaroneck camp. And I used to have like 25 5-year-old kids. And I vividly remember one night at Yonkers, it's a weeknight, it's 11 p.m. and I hear a child's voice call me. And I turn around and it's one of my kids. One of my campers is out there 11 o'clock at the track It's filthy. There's maybe a few hundred people there because you could bet off track. Degenerative dad is there. He's already disheveled, shirts open, couple drinks in, smoking. And it was the saddest I had felt for this child. It affected me. And I think that's partially why I don't gamble. But watching this movie, it made me feel dirty inside. It made me feel like the real world desperateness of people who go to the track, of who are degenerative gamblers. You could smell like cheap cologne. And I know, Gene, you like the old beer smell.
Yeah, me too.
You know, the gamblers who are lying to themselves, who are like, oh, I'm just going to just get this one big bet, this one big lucky day. It made me feel empty inside. And it's similar to why I don't like movies about addiction, like Leaving Las Vegas. It makes me feel for the alcoholic and the alcoholism. And here I couldn't separate the life of a degenerate gambler because of that kid's voice.
It's like me with the ass to ass scene in Requiem for a Dream. But Big D, speaking of your life experiences shaping the way you see the movie, I had the opposite experience. Like, I was in love with the world that Let It Ride created. My idea of a great day is going to a dive bar with that yellow cheap beer and smoke in the air, where you can ask the bartender for Maalox and then just people watch. Like, that is a great time. And as for the track, I've never really spent time at a horse track. I've been to the Kentucky Derby twice. I didn't really think it was all that. But this sort of track, the ritual, the superstition, the different ticket windows, the jockey club, all that stuff is really appealing to me. It seemed like a really charming place.
Yeah, I mean, I have to say, if we're going to go off a personal experience, like, I grew up where, like, home for me smells like cigarette smoke and old beer. Like, that smells like my home because I grew up in New Orleans, and that's what New Orleans smells like by and large. And then with a little bit of sweet olive in the summer. But, you know, that's it. But I'll say, I don't know, like, I think I get, like, Leaving Las Vegas because that's a drama. And it's supposed to make you feel bad about alcoholics. And it's supposed to make you like go, oh man, like that way of life sucks. Requiem. It's supposed to make you be like, heroin's bad, guys. But this is a comedy. Like, there's no like after school special here. Like, it didn't make me feel bad. It just, you know, it was cute.
No, again, and I will get to that point. But at this point in the movie, I haven't figured out what it's going to be because we're only meeting Trotter. We're seeing the guys at the bar, and I'm getting some weird parallels between the group who are like sharing, like, oh, I only go horses with socks. I only go for this. Here's my idea. With the guys who are now online, like, you know, the meme coins, the stonks, and the Reddit Wall Street bets. It seems like that same group. Now, I'm not talking about the people who are truly in the know. I'm not talking about the guys who have connections with horse trainers or the guys who trade, who have like a Bloomberg terminal, which is like 25 grand a year. I'm talking about the people who use shit like terms like Roger used to, like, I got diamond hands. I'm going to get me some tendies or YOLO or HODL. You know, oh, to the moon, ape strong together. That's the shit I'm talking about. Where all these desperate people are looking for an edge and they're all coming together in the bar, or they're coming together in their subreddit and they're basically smoking and they're telling each other about the plans they have or the series that they've come up with about numbers, the horses' names, or the superstition. It's everywhere. Come on. You have to have had those people in your lives who try to sell you on something. I had a guy in the army tell me that the Iraqi currency after the war was going to become the next big thing, and he had invested in buying it. Or a guy who had gotten a tip about this company that was making a liner you would put on airline, the baggage thing, so that if they exploded, it could contain it. None of this shit works out, but everybody's got these crazy bastards in their friend group.
Well, yeah, it's like everyone who sells Rodan and Fields on my fucking Facebook feed. Like, I mean, it's the multi-level marketing shit with those people in my life. But I didn't understand half of what you said other than like YOLO. And clearly, I think you and I are much different like subreddits on Reddit, because my Reddit rooms are nothing like that.
I only hang out in Gone Wild, so I don't know.
So you got what are they? Paper hands? Is that what you got? Paper hands? Paper hands, I think, is people who don't hold, people who sell at any drop. And then diamond hands are the people who hold on to it to the very end. You know, it's so true because somebody's going to get caught holding. Oh, I agree. It is totally stupid.
Isn't tendies just chicken tenders?
It is chicken tenders, yeah. And I know
that. I'll read that subreddit.
I know these only because there was the movie recently that came out about the whole GameStop, the GameStop stocks.
Oh, yeah.
And all of these are in there. The people
Fucking
who are
documentary horror.
No, it wasn't a documentary. It was the one with Seth Rogen.
Okay.
And all. It was a pretty good.
So
pretty
a
good cast.
docudrama.
Biopic horror. Yeah, docudrama horror.
Don't you guys? Don't judge. Don't judge.
Yeah, I don't want to kink shame you. Shit.
Well, people like Trotter, I think they believe in one thing clearly, which is this concept. I mean, you talked about religion, but it's like their religion, which is the religion of like luck. You know, they convince themselves of these like really like small insanities and like really otherwise like fairly intelligent people. Like they allow themselves to be convinced of something mysterious out there that's either good or it's bad, and it's gonna, you know, come their way or screw them over. And I find it fascinating because like I have friends who are utterly brilliant, who are really logical, immensely level-headed, and like they will not sit down once the Astros start winning when they stand up. Like they're convinced that it's like unlucky. And they wear like the same hats and like all that shit and the superstitious thing. And it's like utter lunacy to me because I don't buy into any of those things, any of those superstitions, any of the concept of luck, like in general. So I'm curious from both of you, because this is like very much like the core value of Trotter here, which is, you know, do you think that people are like born lucky, or have you ever had like one of those like lucky days, like where you're just having a good day like Trotter is?
No, I don't believe in such thing as luck. I think no, but I do get that itch to gamble, and I can understand it. You have the fear that you're going to miss when your luck turns to positive. You can continue losing, but you're just that one bet away. You're that one bet from something. And I get something weird. As logical as I am, and I hate betting, I will be walking past like a Powerball machine, and I will feel like, and I can, in that moment, envision like the news, like article about the winner coming from this one specific thing. And somehow, if I pass it by, I'm passing up on my luck. Most of the times, I will try to go away from it, but I can understand that you feel like luck is right there. It is like one bet or a dollar ticket away.
I feel like it's a bit unfair to like totally dismiss luck. I don't think like I'm a lucky person per se, but my feelings on luck are kind of the same as my feelings on the supernatural, right? Whether it's ghosts or, you know, crystals or anything like that. Like, do things exist out of our ability to explain them? Yes, absolutely. Right. So in that sense, yeah, luck probably exists. Like some people probably are lucky. And I think about that, like, you know, the soldier who just narrowly avoids being killed, or the gambler who just knows in some ineffable way that her bet is right. I think it can exist, but it's kind of like the old saying, right? It's like, I'm going to, you know, the harder I practice, the better my luck gets sort of thing, where it's like, there are things about those people, whether it's that they can sense things or that there is just something about them. I don't believe in like energies and manifesting stuff, but you know, I think that it's possible that there's something, some, you know, metachlorians or some shit that make people lucky. That's totally doable. You got to admit, there are some people who are fucking lucky than others.
You have to do in order to have a chance at luck. A gambler is going to have 100 bad days and that one lucky day, but he's out there gambling every single hand. You don't have a chance to be lucky unless you're out there getting the action.
It's deep, man.
Mm-hmm. Fortune cookie.
I hate you both.
There you go.
Hate you both.
After being released, Trotter resumes his lucky streak. Accessing the track's exclusive clubhouse dining room, he starts meeting other well-to-do gamblers, including the wealthy Mrs. Davis and a sexy vixen named Vicky. Trotter soon becomes a hero to the ticket seller, whose window he uses to wager every time, and to the customers of the track's bar. He also hires a security guard to protect him.
Okay, so this was about the point I was talking about, the point where I realized what this movie was. And I got to be honest, I wasn't having much fun watching it. I felt bad for all the characters, the rich ones, the poor ones, the broke patrons in Marty's bar. I felt bad for Trotter's neglected wife. I felt bad for the low-class wealthy at the jockey club. I thought this was going to be a cautionary tale about gambling. I thought this was going to be some lesson coming at the end. And then it turned into like a Looney Tunes episode. Out of the blue, Trotter gets caught because they just say, hey, pickpocket. They go after him. They don't know why. He gets caught. He hears that the betting window is about to close. It turns straight Roadrunner and Coyote. He hurdles and busts through the door. It turns into a million pieces of like debris. He's then scurrying. He's running like O.J. Simpson through the airport in that commercial from the 80s. He's hurdling. He's jumping. At the end, he's tackled. I half expected him to slide across the floor like a cartoon, his head go through the door or the little wood, and he'd be like, I want it all on number 3. And then it clicked. Wait, this isn't the type of comedy that Do the Right Thing is.
Oh.
This is a very different type of comedy. There's not going to be a lesson. I can relax. And then I started to get the satirical nature of the plot. It's breaking the fourth wall. It becomes more obvious. And I started to relax and enjoy it.
Big D, we're old friends. You were in my wedding. We're soon to be Chop Top teammates together. What the fuck, man? With all due respect, what the fuck? Buster Poindexter is a main character in this movie. There's a guy named Simpson who is basically you in the 80s that physically pushes entire fucking crowds around. Hagrid is running the ticket booth. Like, what part of this did not scream to you from the get-go? It's a comedy.
Well, I think at this point, all of the little pieces were adding up. I had to collect enough evidence first, right? All of those are good points, Gene. They help me.
I mean, I get what you're saying, though. It does get like I laughed out loud when he ran through that door. And as a massive fan of Adam Sandler comedies of the 90s, I kind of thought Adam Sandler has invented his own subgenre of comedy where you get these odd characters and they get these little non sequitur scenes that are highly specific. And you're like, what the fuck was that all about? Like the clown and Billy Madison's like, hey, kids, I bet you thought I was dead, or the Flock of Seagulls guy in The Wedding Singer. Like, do you like Flock of Seagulls? No, but I bet you do. Well, this is 1989, and I'm like, holy shit, this is years before Adam Sandler. Let It Ride is really hinting at kind of a more primitive version of that style of comedy. You see it in like the Bookies. You mentioned Vito's in this movie, the Bookies, Green Shoes, Tony Cheeseburger. Like that whole fucking thing was weird as shit and kind of reminded me of my uncles. And then you've got the track security guard's willingness to literally shoot people for Trotter, and as he's explaining like his peripheral vision.
And I like that you called it a non sequitur because that's what it is. Like it's a complete non sequitur. And I feel like it's one of those things that like I always imagine Sandler in the writing room, like recommending all these characters. And they're like, well, that could get edited. That could get edited. That could get edited. Because they don't have anything to do with the plot, any of the characters you mentioned. And it's the same here. You could have had this movie without the Rent-A-Cop. You could have had it without like these crazy interactions with him, but it would have been a lesser film for it. And this is probably my favorite little rental cop role like ever, like in any movie, like ever of all time.
I think what we can agree on here, though, is the overall tone does shift and it becomes kind of a feel-good movie. It goes from sort of a down in the dumps movie to a real heartwarming sort of thing. And feel-good movies are generally not my cup of tea. I don't generally like them. But I really enjoyed watching Trotter win over all these characters around him. Like that cop was not his friend to begin with. And then he was willing to shoot people for him and protect his assets. And particularly the ticket seller. That's the one that made me smile the most. Now, he was played by the late Robbie Coltrane, and it was almost like being like visited by the ghost of Hagrid. And there's this scene where Trotter, they don't like each other at first. The ticket seller is telling him, this is the $50 window. You got to go to the other one. But Trotter comes in, he decides to parlay his winnings to go for the $69,000. And they print up all the tickets, and the ticket seller, he pulls out a pack of cigarettes and suddenly softens his gruff demeanor. And he just starts telling Trotter, like, you're a legend. Like, I've been working so many different ticket counters from, track to track, and you're a legend. You're my favorite. You're the best. You're the greatest. And then, an old lady's hugging Trotter. Everyone's cheering for him. And it just feels good to see this turn of events.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting that you say that because I felt the same way. Like I kept getting more and more nervous for the other shoe to drop. And I kept worrying like that he would lose. And I didn't want him to do so. And I usually hate these kinds of films, but this comes back to Dreyfuss. Like, I mean, he is so incredibly charming. You can't help but want him to win. And it was so lovely to see Hagrid. Like, really, really lovely.
Why do you guys keep talking about Robbie Coltrane as Hagrid? That's not his master. His master role is Charlie McManus. Nuns on the Run.
Yeah.
That was his masterpiece. He was great in that.
Fair.
And he is funny. And I think all the little characters you guys are mentioning that you there are so many to name. You have the guy in the bathroom with the change. Great, I'm going to put my kid through college. He gets 3 more minutes. They're all great. They build the tapestry of what a track is like. So even though this movie is 1989, it feels like it's so long ago. A few weeks ago, we did another 80s movie, 85, Legend of Billie Jean, and we all commented. The movie hinges on a $600 debt. It turns into a multi-state manhunt. There's 2 people shot, snipers, abductions, state's attorney, all over $600. So we're saying, why go through that? Why deal with the press, the police? Why not just pay the $600? This movie 4 years later, and the characters are struggling to save $100 for a rainy day. Trotter considers his first win, the $710, that is life-changing money. Then he wins the next step in the evolution is $69,000, where he now declares that he is now rich. So I went back to see, back in 89, $50, which was his first bet. That's $127 today. The $710 in 89, today that's $1,800. The $69,000 in 89 today is $175,000. So yeah, you're not rich, but that will definitely help you pay off a house, kid couple years in college. And it got me asking, was Trotter really that broke? Or is this just a case of us having inflation warping our perception of what money was like back in the 80s?
I think the idea was that he was really that broke. I mean, if you look at his cab, it's pretty fucked up. If you look at his house, it's pretty fucked up. And that's on 2 incomes, in Florida. I think that's the whole joke at first, is that he's walking around saying that he's rich and that he's won all that money, and to other people at the track, it's really not that much. But for the sake of argument, when we talk about if this is life-changing money, we have to remember that inflation and wage growth aren't the same thing. This shocked me. Like, I knew that inflation and wage growth weren't the same thing, but the amount of change from 89 to now is pretty staggering. The average annual income, Big D, in 89 was $20,000. $20,000. And this is a cab driver. So I guarantee he was making less. I mean, he's always doing that math in his head. He's like, oh, the guy working in the bathroom is making $150 a week. That's good money. So I think that in his case, $69,000 is life-changing money. And even $700 would make a big difference. That's probably a couple months worth of rent and paying off his taxi maybe for the year.
Yeah, and the $1.50 hamburger in 89, that's $3.82 today. I don't think you're getting a hamburger at the track for less than $4.
As the worst looking hamburger I've ever seen in my life.
It looks like plastic.
Trotter's wife Pam confronts him at the track clubhouse, flies into a rage, and leaves. After winning another race to total $69,000, Trotter decides to call it a day and goes home to Pam, buying her a diamond necklace on the way. He finds Pam passed out drunk, so he heads to Marty's bar and suggests sharing his luck with the patrons by all betting together. They refuse. Trotter goes for a walk around the track where Vicky asks to sleep with him. He turns down Vicky by professing his love for his wife. So no 80s comedy about a guy in a suit is ever going to be complete without some knockout hitting on him for no reason. And in this movie, we get 2 because it's a very lucky day for Richard Dreyfuss. But he still fits that mold of white guy in a blazer, being kind of sleazy, being hit on by women out of his league, and getting himself into some zany situations. That's the formula for Steve Martin movies. It's the formula for Chevy Chase movies. But both of those guys always rub me the wrong way in the way they played those scenarios. Richard Dreyfuss, on the other hand, he uses the same formula, but he allows himself to be the good guy. He's not going to cheat on his wife. He's not going to screw over his friends. He still looks out for people. And honestly, that doesn't compromise the comedy. I think he's funnier for it.
I am so glad that you brought this up because I am a Steve Martin fan, but I am not a Chevy Chase fan at all. Like, I do not enjoy him. I do not enjoy his movies. And I've always especially hated those subplots in the National Lampoon movies where Clark wanted like some hot girl and he had the fantasies of like cheating on his wife, who, by the way, was freaking hot. Like, why do you need to cheat on her? Right. And here, though, you've got, like you said, kind of the same situation. And you've got Jennifer Tilly, who looks good in this movie.
Yeah.
And he wants his woman. He wants his wife. And it's actually really sweet. And I think that, like, at this point, I was really enjoying it. But just like you, all I could think is, okay, great. Like, here comes the turn. Like, here he goes. He's going to, cheat on his wife. It's going to turn into a whole Chevy Chase thing. And it never did. And I think it was wonderful.
But I think it goes back even to the core that Chevy Chase could never laugh at himself. Chevy is always smarter than somebody. He's always got an angle on somebody. He's wealthier than somebody else. He's wittier. Whereas Richard Dreyfuss can be just a regular guy. He doesn't have to be anything exceptional.
And we should point out that this is so much more mature, too, because it's not like Terry Garr's character is being like amazing to him, right? She's screaming at him. He goes home and brings her diamond necklace and she's passed out drunk. And yet still, even after all of that, given the chance to fuck Jennifer Tilly, he's like, no, man, I love my wife. Like, I can't do that.
I got to tell you, though, like, I absolutely loved her reaction. Like, she's such like a Cancer. And I can say that because I am a Cancer, where like she makes like this big show that she's going to do something. And then like it turns into like this whole idea of like, well, never mind. I can't leave you. So this is just going to be my life now. I'm going to be wasted and you're going to come home and you're going to find me in a pile of vomit and like bring wine home. And like, it's just like, it was amazing.
By the way, I think I can safely say that I am like the biggest drinker on the podcast. At least, I compete in drinking. That much gin is disgusting. No, absolutely not. There's an empty bottle of gin and I wanted to fucking retch.
Yeah, she had to smell horrible the next day.
Yeah. So gin haters of the world, unite and take over. Trotter makes a final bet of $68,000 on a horse named Hot to Trot. As various characters make vows, that was an 80s movie, by the way, Big D, about a talking horse. As various characters make vows, the race comes down to a photo finish. Pam shows up to thank Jay for his lovely gift. Pam shows up to thank Trotter for his lovely gift and tell him not to worry about the money when the announcer reports the winner, Hot to Trot. The total winnings from Trotter's bet on the last race at 40-1 odds net him around $2.7 million. Stephen King, if you're listening, take note that we don't need movies to teach us a lesson. Trotter does some stupid shit in this movie, okay? He parlays all of his bets. Bad idea. He violates a vow to God. Not as bad an idea. He goes against his wife's wishes. He cheats his way into money. Let's not forget, he cheated twice, right? But guess what? We still wanted him to win because it was entertaining. It felt good. He was taking care of his friends. He was good to his wife. He deserved something, right? And I fully expected the movie to end with Trotter losing everything, but discovering that the real wealth was the friends he made along the way. And honestly, I think he would have been okay if he'd lost. Like, they established that he'd come to terms with the fact that this was a big bet. And if he lost, he still had a day. He's saying that he got his wife a diamond necklace and he bailed his friend out. And, he got to eat at the jockey club and all that stuff. He had a great day, but he still got to win. And it felt awfully good as a viewer.
I got to agree. And I can't believe I wanted this, but Gene, you always love the ensemble ending. We've got everybody now, all the different wacky characters we've had. They've come out and he's coming to the track and it parts like the Red Sea and all these people are coming down. They're cheering him. Trotter's become the hero and the crowd's getting... I on subconscious level was hoping this would be like a musical ending where they could break into song. There could be something fun. He's on his knees. He's won. Why not go out with even a curtain? You know how we got Do the Right Thing starts off like it's a stage show, end with a curtain, da-dum, and it closes.
Well, I think that we saw in Fletch Lives why you don't do that.
We don't need zippity doo dah. We don't need a plantation scene. We just need a happy bunch of degenerate gamblers. They had their day, and it ends right there. We don't need to know what happens next.
You know, I have a firm belief that they pitched this movie to Steve Martin. He's like, I want to do a musical scene. They're like, no. And then they went to Martin Short. He's like, I want to do a musical scene. Like, no. And then Richard Dreyfuss was like, I don't need to do a music scene. Hired. Richard Dreyfuss doesn't need musicals. He's that good.
Well, I think that my favorite part of this movie really is that it uses one of my all-time favorite movie tropes, especially for like the kind of like the feel-good film, which is where you get this random gathering of people who experience something together. And it's like people who would have never come together. They never would have known each other. You know, our commissioner even said at the beginning, like, even the redhead from Sex and the City's there with braces, right? Like, it's just like this random gathering and this amalgam of individuals. And it's just for that day. Like, they're never going to see one another again. Like, they're not going to be friends after this. It's just they're all going to share in a moment, like, where the rest of their lives, they're going to tell that story, like, over and over and over again.
Before this year, I would have said that Chop Top Challenge was basically that. Yeah. Like, I was like, hey, what's going on, guys? And now it's a bunch of people that you know, we had these crazy experiences with, but we're going to do it again. So I guess it doesn't really count. I think this is why people fuck at conferences. Like, this is why, because you're like, you're out all night. Like, they have the mix and mingle thing. You're in a strange city, and then you group up with a bunch of people who go bar to bar, and everyone's staying in a hotel. So
they have name tags on.
They have name tags on. You work in the same industry, but never have a need to talk to them.
You can check if they're a level above you or below you because their title's on there.
See, but I think a lot of that also is due to the lifestyle that people live now. A lot of people lack that excitement, that adventure in their normal lives that they had when they were younger. So they go to a conference and they get a chance to reinvent themselves, who they are, to have fun, go out, go wild, no consequence. You come in, and I think that's it.
I mean, I don't know what kind of conferences y'all are going to. I mean, mine are boring.
Marketing conferences.
Mine are super boring.
I mean, I think Big D had that experience at Mardi Gras.
Yes, don't you do rap songs at your conferences, Ash? About what was your song? What were you guys singing?
I'm sorry, is that your rap motion?
Yeah, your what was it about? What were you like rapping about? Like division or?
I apologize to all black listeners.
What were you doing?
I have never rapped about division. Are you talking about Timothy Chalamet? Statistics.
No, come on.
Yeah, statistics.
Help me out, Gene. Gene, she was forced to do some presentation where they were singing about.
Oh, that wasn't a conference. That was just my everyday job. That wasn't a conference.
What was it?
We didn't rap. We had to come up with a Christmas song that was like related to our industry. It was terrible.
All right. Now it's time in the podcast where we give our Shat score for Let It Ride. The Shat score is our way of telling you how many wipes this movie takes to get out of your respective butts. 0 wipes is when you're having a very good day. And 5 wipes is an absolute disaster. It's when you're rat holing a 5 up your ass during a shocking incident of bumping. Ash, we'll start with you. What is your wipe score for Let It Ride?
I've had no clue what this movie was even about. Like, I absolutely loved it. It moved so fast. It was your classic 80s hour-and-a-half film. It moved really, really fast. It was super fun, incredibly charming, really, really funny. I thought it was nearly perfect for the genre that it represents. I mean, it isn't quite there, but I thought it was quite good. So I'm going with a very, very respectable 1 wipe.
I don't want to let the sad camper haunt me even further, but it is. I'm going to go on the movie itself. I think it's better. It's better than average, but not by much. You know, yes, memorable characters. But I don't know. I just it for me it dragged a bit. I wanted there to be a little more going on, so I gotta go. I'm gonna go 2 wipes. I think that's generous for me. I would have gone harder because that poor little kid looking at me, being like, "Hey, hello, hi, Counselor Richard, how are you?" And I'm like, "What are you doing here?" "Oh, Mommy said to go with Daddy because she had to go out." And I'm like, "What time is it?" "Oh, it's 11 o'clock," and it was sad. And I wonder where he is today. It's probably.
You were at a horse race at 11 o'clock at night?
I believe it was late night, yeah.
Wait,
it may have been a little bit, just felt that late. I just remember feeling so bad for this
really
fucking
like
kid.
6
it was
o'clock,
cold out.
So it was like okay?
No, 6 o'clock. It was late night. No, it was night races.
Was it just like dark because of the time change?
I don't think so.
I think after 10 p.m. they race thestrals. It's not even horses anymore.
But again, the movie on itself, it's not terrible, but it's not great. I mean, it's a little better than average.
I just want to point out that in this film, as you mentioned, Big D, Richard Dreyfuss runs through a door, and then Jennifer Tilly tackles him over a table in a mini dress, and there are horses racing, and you want more. A man's shoes catch fire.
No, I don't want any more. I'm saying I just kept. For me, degenerate gamblers at a track, it's not. I don't know. I just don't the genre. It didn't do anything for me.
Yeah, I mean, we're not too far apart on our scores, just for different reasons. I think Let It Ride does a masterful job of taking a topic I care nothing about. I think we've established that. I don't give a shit about horse racing, and making it an interesting backdrop for a feel-good, entertaining comedy. I feel like it's the opposite of watching Curb Your Enthusiasm, where like things are all going right for Larry David. It's infinitely quotable with lines like, "Some people like to rub me for luck, and my legs go all the way from my ass to the floor." Like, that's just great. And Robbie Coltrane, Jennifer Tilly, Richard Dreyfuss, Buster Poindexter, Terry Garr, they're all putting in work. I mean, this is a great cast. I loved it. I'm going at 1.5 wipes. And with 1.5 wipes from me, 2 wipes from you, Big D, and 1 wipe from Ashley gives us an average wipe score of 1.5 wipes.
I don't know how I feel about this, but that now ties this in the 96 spot with some good movies with The Thing, Scrooged, Spaceballs, Friday the 13th, Galaxy Quest, UHF, Scarface, Magnolia, Stand By Me, The Naked Gun, 3 O'Clock High, Rocky Horror Picture Show, and Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels.
Fucking Gene.
I mean, listen, Magnolia wasn't great.
Oh my God.
Magnolia was great.
I want real people that hang out at Marty's bar, not people that hang out at their rich houses feeling good about themselves.
That's
bad about
Magnolia
themselves.
had a musical number. If
It did.
Had that at the end of this, a group sing along, that might have gotten me down to half a wipe.
It's not gonna stop. That's a song that they sing.
I know. Or it could have rained fish. Was it raining fish or
rains
frogs?
frogs. Why the fuck would it rain a fish?
Frogs.
What deadly playing was on the 7th day? The fish rain.
I think that was in the Book of Mormon.
No, this
is how Big D proves that he's the least religious of the podcast. It rained fish or something. That's why Jesus fished.
Maybe that was the 7th sign. Maybe that was a different movie.
It also didn't rain fish in that one. Jesus gave the fish, but he never rained it.
All right. On that
plague
note,
upon
D,
both your houses. I don't know.
Let's get it. God, I want out so badly. Big D, let's go to the next movie.
Gene, next week, California sizzles when old rich men chase hard bodies in this hilarious summertime comedy. The dumpy, frumpy, and lumpy single Hunter, Rounder, and Ash rent a beach house and take adventure. Commissioned by Scott H. This came out in 1984. And this might be our first Skinamax movie. This is a pleasure yourself teen movie in the 80s. This is right up there with like Hot Dog and like some of those films that you would just wait for your parents to go to sleep and throw this on and get those funny feelings down below.
Yeah, I think it was just this and Porky's. That's it.
No,
we need more of this.
Yeah, there's more. Hot Dog, the movie, or also 9.5 Weeks was one of those films.
Was that a comedy?
No.
Oh.
No. My Tutor was another one, and an older woman teaching a young boy how to become a man. A lot of these films.
Well, thanks, Scott, for the upcoming commission. Thanks, Butch, for commissioning Let It Ride. Thank you to all the commissioners who make this podcast possible. That concludes this week's episode of Shat the Movies. Should have followed us on social media and share with a friend. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat, and Instagram at Shat the Movies. Email us, host@shatpod.com. Support the podcast by shopping our Amazon affiliate link, buying our merch, or by commissioning your own website. Find all information by visiting our website, shatpod.com. Also, check out our sister podcast, Shat on TV. We review TV series such as Lovecraft Country, Westworld, True Detective, Taboo, American Gods, Game of Thrones, and Watchmen. Find all information on our website, shatpod.com/TV. We're everywhere fine podcasts can be found, including Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Stitcher, and YouTube. Be sure to subscribe. And if you stop by Apple Podcasts, please leave a 5-star review. It helps the podcast grow. On behalf of my co-hosts, Ash and Big D, I'm Gene Lyons. Join us next week for the following movie.
Columbia Pictures proudly presents a minor motion picture event. A film with absolutely no redeeming social value whatsoever. A film that has won not 5, not 3, but absolutely no Academy Award nominations. A film that luminaries like Bergman, Fellini, Spielberg, and Lucas had absolutely nothing to do with. A film that every critic in America has unanimously hailed as a motion picture. This is Hard Bodies, the film that will teach you important new words like hard bodies.
It means perfect little foxes down on the beach.
BBD.
It's a bigger and better deal.
And wuss.
Yeah, she said he got a lot more class than an immature boy like you.
Oh, man. That wuss. That wuss.
It will answer important questions.
Whatever became of romance?
You want romance? Read a novel. You want me? I'm upstairs.
Expand your language skills.
My friend Rag here, he's multilingual. He's flipping you off in 48 languages.
Explore the wonders of nature.
Look at these hamstrings, this gluteus maximus. This is the body of the 80s.
To travel where no man has gone before.
And how to effectively plan your day.
First, we'll make love. Then we'll go for a jog. And then we can come back and make love again until we bounce off the walls.
So how do you like your eggs?
Hard Bodies is stuffed with fine dialogue.
Is Over Easy okay?
Lavish costumes. The latest in special effects.
Well, is everything turned on now?
Everything is now.
And an important message for all.
Party, 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 party.
It runs about an hour and a half, raves the Encino Gazette. It's shot with movie film, just like E.T., says the Schenectady World Bulletin. And Utah Today calls it absolutely the best film we have seen this afternoon. If you see only one movie this year, then go see this one also. Hard Bodies. If you don't know what they are, you don't know what you're missing.